Welcome to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire, a weekly podcast with Meena Puri, an Ayurvedic practitioner and spiritual teacher who brings the ancient, time-tested wisdom of Ayurveda in this time of great upheaval and global ascension to inspire you to the next level of your spiritual evolution. She will discuss all topics related to your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you ready to be free of all suffering and soar to your heart's calling? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Meena Puri, and today we're going to have a conversation on how yoga has the power to transform your life deeply. I'm a yoga teacher. I started with being a yoga teacher, then moved into Ayurveda, but yoga continues to be a big part of my life. I practice. I don't know what I will do without it. And so although the yoga practice in the Western culture, how we see it is more on the physical level, those who are immersed in the studies of it know that it's just a much deeper practice. So it's about union. We can begin with the union with our body, mind, and soul. When that happens, we can unite with that which we came from, which is pure consciousness. And notice how the world can change. You know, the disconnect that we are feeling currently. What if we begin to connect with ourselves? And the connection to the external begins with that. So today, we're going to have a fun conversation with my colleague, another fellow yogi and yoga teacher, Steve Buchanan. Steve and I go way back when we were in the yoga world together. And Steve's been teaching for a while. He also worked up to become a Swami in the order of Kriya Yoga Sat Sanga. He'll tell us what that is all about. Steve is an engineer by day. He's a husband and a father of 3, and obviously yoga is a big part of his life as well. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So good to have you here. I'm just so tickled for us to connect back together.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like high school reunion or something.
Right.
Yeah, so, tell me, I know that you've had quite a discovery in your yoga journey. Why don't you tell us what that was all about?
Yeah, I found yoga just looking for the physical aspect, trying to stay in shape, and wintertime in Michigan, it's hard to get outside. So I found a hot yoga class. Didn't know anything they were saying in there, or just followed the person next to me.
Yeah.
And I liked it, but it wasn't until later that with another teacher, I found myself, I was in Warrior 2. I remember the pose. Mm-hmm. And so I just had this emotional overwhelming come in me, and I wanted to cry. And at that point in my life, I'm an Army veteran, and so, men don't cry in public, right? You got to break all these stigmatisms that we've built around ourselves, and so macho me, and manly man in this pose, and I've got this emotion coming over me, and I wasn't open to receiving it, so I choked it all back down. Right? I can't have that being seen. A bunch of
not now, not here.
But that was a moment for me, and I am an engineer. I'm very analytically minded, and I wanted to know why. What was it that me just standing there with my arms out? I mean, come on, you look at it and you think, oh, what in that pose there would really trigger that, and that led me to teacher training, because what's the best place to really understand, right? And just maybe going at it first again, in Western culture, it's a very physical body complex part of yoga. But you learn all the other aspects. You learn all the other 7 limbs, right? And really how that incorporates. And it started that journey for me where a journey of at that moment, at that time where I really wasn't in tune with the feeling part of myself, you know, that internal component that we've suppressed due to trauma or anything else in your life, right? You build these walls and not allow yourself to feel. And it's been quite the journey to where I can actually sit and enjoy my feelings now and not have to try to suppress them and hide from them.
Wow, it's such a, it's such a big deal. In my work of practice of healing, when I talk about, like I wrote about in my book, is to feel deeply to heal, I do have clients that I have to teach them how to feel.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't understand what that means. They don't understand what it is to feel anger. So I ask them, it's like, well, who do you love? Okay, love my children, love my mom, love my dog. So bring that feeling into your heart and feel the feeling of love for them. And then they begin to notice the very subtle sensations, the warmth, the expansion, the fullness. So then they know this is how it feels when you feel love. Well, now let's see if we can feel all the other stuff, which it's painful to feel. So, and yoga is such a kind of a door to your inner world. And sure, we enter it with the physical aspect. I think it's the physical aspect that's most attractive in the Western culture, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter because it doesn't matter why people start, into anything, but it's going to get you where it's meant to. It's going to work you. It's going to take you where you're ready to go. So that's wonderful. So for a man to feel is a big thing, and
it is, and it breaks a lot of the paradigms that we have in culture, right? You know, especially growing up in Western culture, you know, men don't cry, and you hear all that, and you take that on, right? You take all these biases pushed on you, and so you adapt
believe
them.
it.
You believe it's all part of it, and those can be really challenging to break down, right? And so that's also part of it. It's allowing yourself to be vulnerable, which again is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I think we're slowly learning that.
Yeah, and that has to be the big part of it. And you know, once you connect to the feeling of which there's pain associated there, right? Feeling is pain.
Yeah.
And so there's a resistance. I don't want to feel pain. So why are you asking me to feel this? And if you can get past that, you can get to the point where, pain is a part of life, but we don't need to suffer.
We don't need to suffer.
Suffering is optional, right? We can.
Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
Absolutely. So, but it's really shifting your mindset and, in my teacher's words, having a new thought, right, is where that starts. And, connecting with yourself.
Yeah, it's really, and this is what we're doing during this time, because we've been in the thinking, the engineering, the analytical mode, in the mental flow so much that we have forgotten the other parts of our being, the other layers of our being. So that's why we all felt like that we were just little heads running around, because we acted like it, right? So the whole being is, we didn't come to the heart because we accomplished and achieved so much just being in the mental flow, and it was kind of fun not having to feel stuff. Right. But again, like you mentioned that you're reading my second book, that until feeling is to free the energy, to resist is to give it more power. So it really doesn't go away. Body is the container. And so that's why in Warrior 2, you begin to, the tears come up because you shook the container. and what was in it is going to start pouring out. So body really is a tool. Body is not the end, it's means to the end to get to the true essence of who we are and what's really, and that's what separates us, separates human beings from a piece of machinery.
Yeah.
That's why you can't treat human beings like parts put together and fix this part and repair that part and think that just don't worry about the feeling sense. I'm just going to fix this part over here, replace this, and you're good to go.
Right.
That's why it is so many of our kind of illnesses, for the lack of a better word, are undiagnosable.
Right.
Because they can't be diagnosed with a 3D piece of equipment.
Yeah.
That only sees the physical as the only reality. So, yeah, what a world. And it's because of yoga that I was led to Ayurveda, because yoga was like, okay. And once I started, I couldn't get enough.
Right.
And then there was more. It's a never
It's
an ocean.
Always more. Yes.
There's always more. You're never done. And, I remember I had a lot of men in my classes. I had a lot of men. I had a lot of coaches, because that's where they felt safe, because I didn't see men-woman thing. I think the paradigms they were struggling with, it was foreign to me.
Yeah.
It's like, men don't cry. You have a heart. Men don't feel. No, let me pinch you here. Do you feel?
Yeah. Right.
So it's so wonderful now that we're able to have these conversations openly. And there's still men out there who just, not just men, women. It's difficult to learn the new thing until it becomes a pain in the butt, until holding on to something just becomes much more painful than feeling it. That we need to, and we're still kind of, dabbling into a piece here, a piece there, without looking at the whole picture. Like we go to the counselor and we go to the doctor, and these two people don't talk to one another.
Right.
And so we really need to start looking at the person as a whole, and yoga is such a, it's really, yoga is that one practice that connects the body to the mind via the breath. So, we call it yoga. You can call it whatever you want to call it, as long as you're breathing and connecting with what you're doing. So exercise is just body. I think, they don't connect the breath, the inhale or the exhale.
Right.
But I think more and more people are getting cued into it. Have you seen?
Yeah, that is shifting a little bit. And, even, and it's not even just yoga. I mean, Qigong, other practices really work on connecting the breath with the energy, right?
Yeah,
and watching that flow. And I tell my students, going through teacher training, yoga is the one entity where, your whole life you've gone to school, you've taken through college, got your master's degree, whatever that is, and you may have taken one biology class through all of that, right? Where you study the body itself. And out of all that, you probably don't even study your mind in any of it. You may take a psychology class, but
you don't really get it.
Out of 20 years of studying, you haven't learned anything about yourself. Mm-hmm. You should know more about you than any other person on this planet. You should know more about you than your doctor or than your therapist, right? But we're so external. Yeah. We're so focused on everything outside of us that we don't get to spend any time on the inside. And again, that can be a scary place to go, especially when you find the parts that you don't like, right?
That is a study.
As appealing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is the study. I can see it. I can see that it may change in the future. Just learning. I mean, you know how to operate a car. You have to
Right.
take a driver's license. Like just learning, who am I? I have body, where the feeling is coming from, where my thoughts are coming from. But I think it will change, but it's going to be slow and hard
Yes.
because we are so kind of, the grooves are so deep.
Yeah, culturally,
Culturally,
it's
yeah.
nothing against the country,
No,
good parts, bad parts, but you take on some of where you live, right? And everybody wants to fit in and be part of the group, and not be the outsider. So you
exactly.
take on these things, right?
You take
And
on these things, yeah, exactly. And that's how we learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you though. I think things are shifting, and as I just take a outside view of things, if you look, the number of apps now that have meditation and guided
That's
meditation,
wonderful.
it's
Yeah.
10 years ago,
You
2
wouldn't
years
see
ago,
that.
you didn't see that. And that's just another great opportunity to sit in yourself,
Yeah,
right?
that's really so
And
true. Like even when I go to YouTube, there's so
yeah,
many meditations and things like that. And I mean, when I work with clients, that's got to be there. And
absolutely.
they walk away with the meditation practice. They have it now. They look forward to it.
The God is within you, and if you don't spend any time looking inside, you're never going to find it, right? You're never
Yeah,
going to find that deepness, and learn to embrace all those parts of you. For
exactly.
a long time, I had this mindset, and where it came from, I don't particularly can't pinpoint, but I had this feeling that the parts of me that um, I wasn't appealing to me. I thought I should like cut them off. Like I don't, can I
Oh,
cut that part away from me, right?
yeah,
And then I'll be whole if I cut that
yeah.
bad part off. And it's such a wrong way of thinking, because we are whole and complete as we are. We are
You are
perfect
whole
and
because of
complete.
that part.
Right,
That's the
right, right.
wholeness.
Absolutely, right. But so it's healing those parts, not
Yeah,
cutting
not
them
getting
away. You can't
abandoning
cut it
them.
away. You're not cutting your hand off because it's not doing what you want it to. It's healing that aspect, and
Yeah,
then embracing it, and understanding who you truly are deep inside, and not the facade that you put on, for the world to see.
I know. I've actually seen that in my practice. I've had people from trauma, they left their body.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so to go back to the body is such a task. I'm like, the body is waiting. It's like a child. The body is waiting, saying, open the door. Let me in. You abandoned the body. So there's just so much pain associated with that. They abandoned the body because the body's not cooperating. Well, my back didn't work, and my body failed me.
Right. Right.
No, you didn't connect with it. Your body didn't fail you. It didn't have any instructions from you.
Yeah.
It didn't
Absolutely.
have any direction from you. So it's such a, the yoga and going inward is a deep reservoir of, I think all you need is your healer within. And that's where, we are so accustomed to external, external, external until the external just is not enough.
Right.
It's not
Right.
working. It's not working. So wonderful. I wonder how many listeners here have a practice of yoga, have a, like a regular, frequent practice of yoga, and what your views on or your experience with the yoga is. I think even, have a seat on a yoga mat. Just that itself invites an inner inquiry. And,
Yeah.
I tell people just get on the mat and just, it's your body, move your body, breathe with it. It's not that foreign.
I think, and I tend to say, because when you have a group of people that go through, I do a lot of yoga teacher training, and so your practice is so important,
So
because
important.
you
Yeah.
keeping your energy high, because you can expel a lot of energy teaching, and if you don't fill yourself up, you
Yeah.
can run yourself out. I said,
Yeah.
your practice is tithing to yourself. You got 24 hours in a day. You can take an hour of
Yeah.
that day and tithe to you, and whatever that practice is. If it's sitting, if it's yoga pose, if it's breathing, if it's
Mm-hmm.
whatever that feels right. Again, that word feels, whatever feels right to you for
Feels
that
right.
time,
Yeah.
right? That's what that practice is. But if you're not tithing to yourself, you're not going to be able to help others the way that you want to, because you're going to
No,
run empty.
it's like it's a foundation, right? It's a good return
Yeah,
on investment, 1 out of
absolutely.
24 hours. It
Yeah,
colors and tones your entire day,
yeah,
right? I tell people, even like to just wake up and feel the sense of the day, feel the energy of the day, which means what are you feeling today? What are you sensing? And then have something like, what is it that you're doing today? What is it that you would like to experience today? It's not about how many appointments you have. We can go through back to back appointments and not really be there,
right,
but
right.
rather what is it that you want to experience? Connection. And then the appointments become just marvelous, wonderful, because you just set that intention. Everything is, intention is such a big deal. So that's what that time for you in the morning can do. It just creates that intention, not just in the mind, but you're speaking loudly when you are tending to the body. You're
Yeah,
speaking your intention loudly when you're tending to the body. You're doing it. You're doing it. And start with even 10 minutes a day. Start with even 5 minutes at the edge of your bed. If you don't have any practice, it's like, three things. What am I feeling around the day? What is this day all about? What is it that I'm doing? Most importantly, what do I want to experience? How do I want to experience today? And then it'll guide you into, that's how you have a conversation with your inner self. And it's going to guide you to do that and give you that experience which you set the intention for. That's how powerful it is. It's so simple, but it is so powerful. So um, let us know. I would love to know if you have a yoga practice, if this inspired you to start a yoga practice, and what is your experience? What are your findings? How has yoga helped you? If you already are a seasoned practitioner or a advanced practitioner, or you've been practicing for a while. So as I'm curious how many people still are not doing that kind of a practice, because I think it's a necessity
yeah,
and you don't need anything. Poor, rich, educated, uneducated, black, white, who cares? You
yeah.
have a body, you can breathe, get inside the body, breathe into the body. Take a minute to breathe into the body. The world will stay, it's not going anywhere. You will just, it will look different once you have,
Absolutely. Yeah,
the world will
absolutely.
look different once you have kind of cleaned yourself out a little bit and connected yourself a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's amazing once you start to heal those parts inside of you, how everyone around you will start reacting to you differently.
Differently. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It just,
Just in more positive manners as you heal those things. It's
yeah,
it's
no, exactly. It's
it's
just,
amazing.
again,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's wonderful. I know you were mentioning what stood out for you in the book. I know you mentioned the book.
Uh, I think the biggest things are, you mentioned like the fifth dimension.
Yeah.
That your word, my words are, being an observer of your life, right?
Yeah. That's already exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is a really key element, that if you're not sitting and reflecting and having a moment of contemplation, right, then you
That's why
will
we are
stay,
where we
you're never gonna, you're gonna stay right where you are.
are.
with all of your pain and all your suffering and all your
Yeah.
trauma, and
Yeah.
it's never going to heal if you can't look in the mirror, right? And the mirror of all those around you, all of those that poke you,
Everything
right?
is a mirror.
Everything is a mirror, right? What you don't like in someone else is what you need to work on yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think those points really stuck out to me, from what I've gotten through so far, and how relevant they are.
Yeah, exactly. And with yoga, we have to be the observer. How do you teach? How do when you're teaching? How do I move the students through a difficult pose that they just want to get out of? So the minute you kind of walk away and see it, it changes, right? How you see something changes what you see.
Yes.
So that's it's such a deep and meaningful teaching of yoga to be the observer, right? And that's what
It's changing your perspective. Yeah,
changing your perspective. And I think I am so amazed by how the poses are a tool. Like warrior, you were talking about warrior 1 or warrior 2, like the feeling you get.
Yeah.
And forward folding, the feeling you get of surrendering. And standing on your head, if you are standing on your head, it's like just shifts your perspective. This is how we get comfortable in the body, when we can move inside the body from so many different angles.
Oh, absolutely. It always amazes me, sitting in the front of a class, how many students can't even do Shavasana, corpse pose, right? Because their hands are twidgeting. They might not be able to close their eyes. Their feet are all,
Because
and
they're in here.
they just
I
can't
know.
lay
I
down for
remember
less than
going and
5
just kind of
minutes,
like
right?
putting little finger on their feet or their hand and saying, da, 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 like just, and they're like, okay, relax. And I, tap on the shoulders and they drop down. And this becomes a norm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This becomes a norm because the mind, they're like, I'm not stressed. This is where it is. Like, yeah. Yeah, so it just really, so if you're listening, so if you haven't, go do yoga.
No
Yeah,
judgment. No
judgment. You go do any practice that moves you inside the body, that connects you, the mind, to the body. And breathing is such a great, superb practice.
Yeah, even I mentioned qigong. It doesn't need to be yoga. Yoga's the one that I'm more connected to. But I have practiced qigong, and it's the same thing. It's just connecting the body with the breath and energy, and
that's what I said. I call it yoga. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's about the using the, you can go to the gym and do yoga because you are doing it with mindfulness. You're breathing. Instead of, when you're lifting the weights, instead of going, how about you breathe with it? Like your body guides you. That becomes yoga. I've used weights. I mean, yoga is so big. It's not about the postures. It's about what you're doing with your body, how you're doing it, and it's the mindfulness. And that makes anything yoga.
Absolutely.
So you're doing teacher training?
Yes.
And you have a studio, right? Where is that?
I don't own it. I just teach there. It's here in Howell. It's MI Fitness. So it's a blend of yoga and other fitness classes.
Yeah. Good. So people can reach out to you if they want to. And what else can we talk about? Well, I can show you guys a book that we're talking about is Wake Up and Heal. It's available on Amazon. If you go to my website, ayurvedichealingcenter.com, you can also download now a digital copy right on your computer. But it's it's kind of a pocket book, 200 pages, easy read. Easy read material isn't.
The work isn't easy. The read might.
The work isn't
easy.
easy.
The work is easy.
I've tried to simplify it. I've had comments like, "Oh, you really made the difficult topics very simple." I'm like, oh, good, because I really kind of got to the point of it and moved to the next topic. So take a look at that book. And what else? Oh, this in the summer months, I will be releasing these masterclass webinar series on healing your emotions. And they're going to be webinar series and then led by a small course so people can get started. And so stay tuned for the detail that I will be sharing. We're still in the process of creating. I haven't launched that yet, but that's what's coming. And what else? So where can people reach you? Just go to the studio. You have an email?
Yeah, my company name is Peaceful Journey Yoga. So it's
Okay.
just Peaceful Journey Yoga at yahoo.com is one of the best places to find me. And yeah,
Wonderful.
reach out. I'd love to help. And
yeah, if there
be
may
more
be
than open to answering
your
any
teacher
yoga questions.
training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. Let me know if a comment here or there struck you as something useful, what you got out of it. It's always nice to have a little engagement with the audience, especially when we're continuously in front of the screen. We're like, is anybody listening?
Right.
So we would love to hear any comments, any feedback back, and have yourself a lovely rest of the day. And I look forward to seeing you at the next podcast. Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.